I'm back from my 2 month long hiatus. I don't remember. It's been a bit. I've been preoccupied with personal matters and school. TAFE, which is, if you're in the US, is basically Australia's community college. Falcon and the Winter Soldier finished last week, and I thought, man, I feel like talking about the MCU, so I figured I would make a tier list of the 23 films we've got in the MCU so far, based on my opinion. Don't, feel free to tell me what your opinion was, but don't get upset if I put one of your favourite films low. Let me start off by quickly fixing up the tiers. Okay. So we've got great, good, just above average, average, just below average, and bad. I've got to say that the MCU is pretty consistent in terms of how good they are. I'd say most films are average or better. But there's a couple who just sort of don't make it that far. But I'm not going to go in order of, I'm not going to go my least favourite up to my favourite. I'm just going to go in the order that's here and put them accordingly, and then at the end you'll see what my favourite was and what my least favourite was. So starting off, we have Ant-Man and the Wasp, just below average. There is 3 MCU films I've seen once, and there's a reason for that. And they're not all the bottom 3. I will quickly say that. It's just they're not in the top half. I've never wanted to rewatch Ant-Man and the Wasp. I think Ant-Man and the Wasp, as like story-wise and character-wise, is pretty. It's really only carried by the chemistry between Paul Rudd and Evangeline Lilly and Michael Douglas, and the charisma of Paul Rudd, Randall Park, and even Michael Pena. But there's only so many times I can watch the Michael Pena explaining things scene without getting tired of it. It's not as good as the first Ant-Man. It's not the worst MCU film. I enjoyed the fact that this villain had a bit more reason behind her. But if Lawrence Fishburne's character, Bill Foster, wasn't there to stop her, she would have killed people. She would have killed Janet. She would have killed everyone. And I didn't care about Janet returning, really. It just, all it did was make people speculate about the quantum realm, and speculation just is everything that's ruins people's perception of these films and these franchises. Take WandaVision, for example. But yeah, Ant-Man and the Wasp, just below average, like a 4 out of 10 film. So the first Ant-Man, I would put just above average. Yeah. I might adjust it later because it's on the line. Again, the things that were good in the sequel that were present in this still work. The chemistry between Paul Rudd, Evangeline Lilly, and Michael Douglas. The charisma of Paul Rudd and Michael Pena. I enjoyed the family dynamic a lot more in this than I did in the sequel, because the sequel didn't really have the issue of him trying to prove himself anymore, because he already did it. And the ex-wife and her husband were now chill with him and everything, which is good. I enjoyed the fact that they showed it as a healthy co-parenting relationship, which is good, because that rarely ever happens in media. They always hate the new partner or something like that, which is sort of in this one, but you never really get the sense that they hate each other because they don't like each other or because they're jealous. They hate Paul Rudd is trying to do his thing. Scott Lang's trying to do his thing, and the new husband is a police officer, and he can't explain to him why he's doing all this stuff, even though he's doing it for good, because then I'm going to you won't believe him and all of this. So like the anger between the two comes mostly out of frustration from Scott Lang wanting to do better but can't explain it, and the new husband being like, oh, we were all hoping that you were shaping up and doing better. So Ant-Man, just above average. It might drop to average. I'm not sure. I'll see how the rest of the tier list goes, because at the end I will make some final adjustments. Avengers: Age of Ultron. Guess what? I liked Age of Ultron. I thought it was pretty alright. Like, it was better than decent. Like, it was better than Ant-Man. I don't want to praise Joss Whedon work, but I'm going to. The introductions for Wanda and Vision were great. Yes, the Hulk Black Widow romance, it felt a little off. And I feel like if the later films had stuck with it, it would have gotten better. But it also establishes itself as like they like each other, but they know nothing will happen in the future. So I sort of accept that, because that's how it happens with some people in the real world. All the Hawkeye's farm stuff was great. Thor wasn't really in it. I think he had the least amount of screen time out of any of the Avengers, which at this point is fine, because this was after the Dark World, so no one cared about Thor. This was after Ragnarok. If in Infinity War Thor barely did anything, people would not be happy. But Ultron was voiced brilliantly by James Spader. I'm a little upset though, because now I would have loved for him to be Doctor Doom, but they don't do that in the MCU, so I doubt that's going to happen. There's no real, it doesn't feel like there's much of a story arc for anyone except for, I guess, Tony Stark and Hawkeye. Because all the new characters, they have future time to flesh themselves out. Black Widow and Hulk's thing starts and then just ends. Their arc is, oh, we can be in relationships. And then it just abruptly ends, and it's just never really, resolved. Thor doesn't do shit. And Cap's arc is the same as it always is, which is a good arc. He's a man out of time. He's used to how it used to work in the 40s. He doesn't understand how it works in the present. But that's no different to his arc in his films from Winter Soldier onwards. So yeah, Avengers: Age of Ultron. It's definitely not the best Avengers film, but it's not the worst. You'll see later what the worst is. Endgame. Good. It's not as good as Infinity War. Everybody has said this. It's not as good as Infinity War. I think a lot of people's problem with the film is that they think it's split into 3 bits too much. So it's first hour, everybody's sad. Second hour, time heist. Third hour, epic, fight to the death. And it is like that. But I'd argue that it kind of needed to do that, because if it didn't have the massive action scene at the end, then people would feel like it didn't work as an action movie, which these are all action films on some level. They may have other genres that they represent better than action, but they are action films underlying. Then if the first hour wasn't all about the mourning and the sadness and all of that, it would make the ending of the previous film feel a bit cheaper and a bit more of a shock value thing, rather than it actually having a proper impact in motivating our characters. And in the middle is the time heist, which is purely for the narrative standpoint, and they needed to do that. They needed a way to do the stones and all of that. And I get people don't like time travel, but they explained it pretty well as to how it worked in the film, and I just sort of accepted it. They remain consistent in how the time travel works in the film until Steve Rogers going back in time, then coming back in a different reality, which doesn't work with how the thing works. But that's okay because it's not that okay. I forgive it because it's like the ending to his character, and he needed to go back to be with Peggy, but he also needed to give the shield to Sam. But he could have given the shield to Sam before he went back in time, but then his shield broke, so it's like meh. Anyway, Endgame was really good. It had amazing endings to the arcs of Black Widow, Iron Man, Captain America. Hulk reached his pinnacle as Professor Hulk. And the other two original Avengers, Hawkeye and Thor. Thor's story was much better in Infinity War, I'm not gonna lie. I did enjoy the addressing of depression and going through grief and like the I'm still worthy bit. I thought that was great with Thor. But he didn't really have an ending arc. You know, it's clearly going to continue over into Guardians 3 and Thor Love and Thunder. It was all around, it was a good film and it wrapped up everything nicely, and also for like a year it was the highest grossing film of all time, and I loved that it was the highest grossing film of all time because it had a rock monster playing Fortnite and the Hulk dabbing, and that is what makes a good film. Infinity War, great. It's so good. Once again, it's the Thanos movie. It's about Thanos. The Avengers are all supporting characters, basically. Thor's arc is incredible. That scene where he rides in Wakanda and does all of that stuff, it would feel cheap if he hadn't gone through this character arc of sort of accepting that he needs to do this. He needs to win the fight, or else his homeworld and his friends and his family dying was for nothing. Secondly, Tony Stark's story arc was very interwoven with Peter Parker's, with Spider-Man's. And it was established in Homecoming, you know, if something happens to Peter, it's on Tony. And he sees him as like his son. And he obviously sees him as like a father figure, like Uncle Ben. If we ever actually see Uncle Ben in the MCU, which I doubt at this point, because we've gotten 2 films without. With the most being a suitcase with his name on it, and then Peter saying, "Oh, what happened to my uncle?" And it's just not explained. And that's fine. I'm not nitpicking about another film in this bit. But yeah, so the idea of him basically trying to send him home and Peter trying to be brave and him not wanting to be brave, you know, not wanting to sacrifice himself to try and save everything like he always does. You know, the line, "I wanted to be like you, I wanted you to be better," you know when to quit. And it ends in him dying, even though I guess technically he would have died on Earth anyway from the snap. But Tony still feels responsible. Cap didn't have a story arc. A lot of characters didn't have a story arc. Basically, your story arcs were Thanos, Thor, Iron Man, and sort of Gamora. She's more of a important player in Thanos's arc. I also, the bit where Star-Lord hits Thanos and wakes him up, I didn't have a problem with that. I did when I first saw the film, but then I thought about it a bit, and I went, oh, you know, he lost someone, and he's done it before. Like, in Guardians 2, second Ego mentions that he killed Peter's mother, he just immediately draws guns on him and shoots him. Just immediately. He doesn't think, he just does it. I get the point that it's going for. Anyway, Infinity War is a great film. Amazing. It's funny, it's witty, it's like it's not overly full of plot holes, and the characters all have at least one moment where they shine. Except Vision. Vision is a little bitch in that film. Black Panther. Average. No. Don't label me as a racist because I'm a white man saying Black Panther wasn't the greatest film ever made. I liked everything from the bad guys. I liked Killmonger, I liked his ideas, I liked, the whole concept and how he made sense and all of that. I thought Andy Serkis was fun for when he was around, and I wish he didn't die. Just to sort of be a comical, occasional pop-up, sort of villain, where he's just sort of he's just an idiot, First of all, the "what are those" reference, mate, I nearly left the theater when that happened. I was just so upset. Don't put memes in your films. It dates them so much. It's one of the only films where I feel cringe in my body when I see that. Martin Freeman was fine. Chadwick Boseman. Rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman, by the way. He's an incredible actor. I'm not going to say he's not, because that's just a lie. He's an incredible actor. But he did so much more in Civil War than he ever did in Black Panther in terms of character. The only arc he goes through is when he enters the ancestral plane later in the film, and he realizes that the villain was right. He realizes that Killmonger's right, and they need to be helping people around the world. That scene is incredible. I think that scene is so good. But I just don't care about Shuri's. I think Shuri's a little annoying, and Nakia's a little annoying. I do like Okoye a lot, but I don't care about her relationship with Daniel Kaluuya. What's his name? The character's name is Wakabi. The guy from Get Out and the guy from Judas and the Black Messiah. I don't care about that relationship, even a little bit. I enjoy the bit where Okoye says that she'd kill him for the throne, for the king. I like that because I understand that's and it explains where her morals are. But I also feel like even if they didn't have that, I'd still understand it, which means they didn't really need Wakabi. I don't like Forrest Whitaker's death. I think it's stupid. Not the death itself, and not the way that he tries to stop it and ends up dying. I think the line that Michael B. Jordan says when he stabs Forrest Whitaker's character is so stupid, and I just can't get over it.
Take me. I'll take you both, Uncle James.
No! Bro, why? Just say I'll take you both. Or don't say anything and kill him, because he just admitted that he's responsible for your father's death. It just sort of undercut all the tension in that scene when he made that. Because it's not really a joke, but it tried to be, and I didn't like it. Anyway, Black Panther is average. There are some incredible moments in it, and I agree with the villain's plot completely, but almost everything else I don't care about. So it sort of balances itself out into being average. Civil War's great. I love Civil War. I love the airport fight scene. And then the ending fight between Tony Stark and Stephen Bucky. It works so much because it doesn't just feel like the airport fight again, because it feels so much more gritty. It feels like Tony is trying to kill Bucky. And Steve and Bucky trying to do everything they can to stop him. It only feels like Steve is the only person pulling his punches. Because Bucky is fighting for his life. He doesn't know Tony. Tony's trying to kill Bucky because Bucky killed his parents. And Steve is the only one who's like slightly pulling his punches, where he's just trying to stop Tony and get Bucky to safety. And he's pulling his punches up until the metal arm gets blasted off. Then he like loses it and he goes full on everything. I enjoyed the beginning of Vision and Wanda's relationship. I love the jokes where, I don't know why, I love this thing, and I wish they did more of it, is Vision trying to be a human, like trying to do human things, and he just can't do it because he doesn't understand it properly. Like, I love the cooking scene, I just do. I wanted a Vision cooking show for like ages after that. I was like, just do that, where it's Vision trying to cook and then he gives the Avengers food poisoning. I fucking love that scene. I don't know why. It's cute, it's unique in the MCU, and it just sort of feels right, because Vision is this character who's trying to understand what it means to be human, and he slowly becomes one, but he himself is obviously not a human. He is made up of all sorts of vibranium and tech. So it does deviate from the comic book Civil War, which was based purely on the Superhuman Registration Act, or Sokovia Accords, the equivalent in the MCU. But I'm fine with that, because I sort of get it as well, because the characters are built on different foundations and are coming off different events than they were in the Civil War comic book. And also, you don't have the big players from the comic book there. You don't have Mr. Fantastic, to make the Supermax security prison. And I don't think they wanted to go down the route of making Tony Stark recruit villains either to fight. I mean, he'll recruit a kid, which is strange, but they definitely got the Spider-Man rights last minute and just said, put him in the airport fight and then just leave him out. Rhodey gets paralyzed, and that's fine, and I don't care, because it's the most story arc he's ever had. So, like, cool. It pays off, and it clearly, like, defines him later, and I think that's really, like, important. Like, in Endgame, when he and Nebula are together, and she's like, I wasn't always like this, he's like, neither am I, because they're both clearly, like, they've gone through stuff, and they now rely on prosthetics, or, well, Rhodey doesn't rely on prosthetics, but he relies on, like, a harness or, like, a rig to keep him up, or a suit. And Nebula is, like, half made of metal. But yeah, Civil War, good film. Not as good as Infinity War, but still quite good. Cap 1. I've only seen Cap 1 once. I've only seen it once. I remember I enjoyed the Steve and Peggy stuff, the Steve and Bucky stuff, and the stuff with Erskine, Stanley Tucci. I didn't care about anything else. I didn't care about Red Skull. I didn't care about Hydra. I actually saw Cap 1 after seeing Cap 2, so the Bucky death didn't do shit to me. I think that for a period war film, it's alright. Like, it's pretty good. It's for like a fake period war film, I should say. But it's the weakest of the Cap trilogy in the MCU. It's not bad, but it's not great. Winter Soldier, better than Civil War. I don't know if it's better than Infinity War. I need to make my mind up on it at the end. But it's definitely better than Civil War. I think it just feels really like... feels like Mission Impossible, but interesting. Am I allowed to say that? It feels really good, the espionage aspect of it, and I think it was a great way to incorporate Cap into the modern day without it feeling like a Superman situation where he's running and was like, I'm a symbol of America and hope, and I'm going to save people's cats. It was either that route, or it was I'm still a government agent and I'm going to do this. espionage stuff. They were the two routes, and I much prefer Cap in this one. Because it works. Because it's not like he's doing espionage and then just firing lasers or throwing a hammer at people. Outside the shield, he appears to just be a human, right? A very jacked human, like a very buff guy. And he's stronger and faster than the average person, but he doesn't have, like, anything that would make him stand out or anything like that. And not to mention the stealth suit in the opening boat scene. Chef's kiss. I fucking love that. It's on the poster there, you can't see it probably, but it's so good. I love it. The relationship between Cap, Black Widow is great. Fury, okay. I love Fury in this film. My one nitpick is the digging a hole out the top of his car and in through the street using a fucking, like, lightsaber or whatever he did. Like, yeah. I get that they need to have a scene where he has to escape closely, to establish that S.H.I.E.L.D.'s compromised and people are after him and trying to kill him. But did he have to use the lightsaber and drill himself into the ground? He couldn't have narrowly evaded everything and gotten through, like, a manhole or something? Or used some weird shield tech? Like, I don't like it. It's a good introduction to the Falcon. Good sort of setup for Bucky still being alive and everything, because they don't really allude to it being Bucky, at any point until it's revealed. So, if you've read the comic books, you know who it is, but if you haven't, it works. Zola was fine. He's dead now anyway, or he got blown up, or, maybe he'll come back in a future show. He didn't come back in Falcon Winter Soldier, which I was so happy about. Like, we didn't need that. We didn't need Nazis on top of everything else that happened in that show. This feels... Falcon Winter Soldier feels a lot like this as well, in terms of the action. Espionage, grounded, gritty. It feels good. Captain Marvel. I think Captain Marvel is below average, but better than Ant-Man and the Wasp. And no, it's not because I hate Brie Larson. I don't. I can't be fucked hating Brie Larson. It seems like a lot of effort, and I don't know how you all do it. She's a good actress. She said some stupid shit, but who cares? Everyone said stupid shit. Yes, she doesn't look like she gets on with the cast, but that's fine. None of my concern. The issue with this film is how it feels like the allegation, well, not allegations, I'm saying it like it's a crime, but the accusations that the MCU, when they do an origin story, just do a modified Iron Man, basically, with slightly different things, but overall it feels the same. That was true for, like, Iron Man, Ant-Man, and Doctor Strange, I think. They felt very similar with, like, certain aspects changed. But it's just, this feels like Iron Man without the fun. Like Doctor Strange without the incredible visuals and the interesting, like, lore. And Ant-Man without the charisma. Like, that's how it feels. Brie Larson is fine. I just think that whoever told her to just be stoic is stupid. She shouldn't have just been stoic. She should have had some level of emotion. And I know she can do emotion. I've seen films where she has emotions. Here's what I thought was good. I'm going to say I thought was good because it sounds like I'm just being negative. I thought the Skrull stuff was done very well. I liked Ben Mendelsohn's Skrull. I liked the whole, they weren't bad. They were actually the good guys, or they were innocent. They were seeking refuge. I thought that was great. I liked the relationship between Carol and Monica Maria Rambeau, and, you know, obviously set up for WandaVision. And I liked Nick Fury, you know, young Sam Jackson. And that's it. I didn't like basically anything else. Doctor Strange is average. Oh, I'd argue it's worse than... I'll rearrange it later. Doctor Strange is lacking in two main areas. The villain, because I don't give two shits about Caecilius. Yes, I remembered his name. And by remembered his name, I mean I googled it before I did this because I knew I'd forget. It's the one name I knew I'd forget. Mads Mikkelsen, wasted in this. He's such a good actor, and they use him for that? Nah. The second thing is they set the relationship up between him and Rachel McAdams, Christine Palmer. They set up perfectly at the start. Like, this is really good. Their chemistry at the start is really good, and it just goes fucking nowhere. Nothing happens with it. And I guess that's fine, because maybe it's in the sequel, but I also am not reviewing this after seeing the sequel, because the sequel's not out. But basically, it's a bit of a mess. I think that the effects are great. I like Wong, I like Mordo, I like the Ancient One. I basically like everyone at Kamar-Taj. I think Benedict Cumberbatch is fine as Doctor Strange in this film. He's much better in Infinity War and even Thor Ragnarok. Because he's got this cockiness in this film. Because he's a cocky surgeon and everything. But he's still, like, it feels weird when he's cocky. And then when he tries to do magic, he's unsure of himself. Whereas there's a nice middle ground when he's doing stuff in Infinity War and in Thor Ragnarok, where you sort of get it. But here it just feels a bit like he's flipping the switch. But yeah, I say it's average. It's probably... I'm just going to do this now because I know this is true. I'll rethink of everything later, but it's not as good as Black Panther. Next, Guardians 2. Okay. Good. Now hear me out. I did not like this film when I first saw it. I think the first half of the film is not that good. I think the ending half is really good. First of all, I hate Drax laughing. I don't like it. And it's like done like they do it like 7 times in the first half an hour of him just throwing his head back and letting out this huge chuckle. I don't like it. It's I'm sure that's the joke, is he laughs funny. Maybe it's not the joke, and maybe I'm right in thinking that he laughs funny and it just makes me uncomfortable. But I like everything that happens in the second half. I love the conflict between Nebula and Gamora and the eventual resolution. I love the Rocket and Yondu thing. I think that is such an incredible storyline where it's sort of, without Yondu's death and without his mistakes, Rocket would never have accepted that he needs to change or that he's doing these things because he's insecure. And I think that's incredibly powerful for a fucking MCU film with a raccoon and a tree. But I just think it's really good. Yondu's death is like one of the only deaths in films that has made me cry. Definitely one of the only deaths after becoming an adult that's made me cry. You know, because I cried at Dobby's death. When Deathly Hallows come out, I was 13 maybe. But that's also because I was a kid and Dobby's the GOAT. But in reality, like, who cares? Fuck Dobby. And Hedwig, no one cares about Hedwig. But, yeah, that last off. And also, the chain is used perfectly in this film. I love that song. It's used so well. It starts off with them breaking the chain when they split up. And then at the end, when they're together, and Peter accepts that he doesn't want to be a god like Ego, or Celestial, a god thing. He wants to be a loser, a misfit like the rest of the Guardians. I said the ending was great. One thing almost ruined the entire ending for me, and that's the Pac-Man gag when when they're fighting and all the rocks surround them, and Ego turns into just big rock Kurt Russell, and Chris Pratt turns into Pac-Man, and I went, I don't care. But yeah, I think Guardians 2, not as good as Guardians 1, but still pretty good. Guardians 1, great. I love this film. I think this film's great. I think that there is one or two clunky bits of dialogue, but otherwise all the dialogue's so smooth and it just floats and the jokes land. And I don't like Baby Groot as much as I like adult and teenage Groot. So adult Groot in this is great. Teenage Groot in Infinity War, great. Baby Groot is just, he feels like he's there to sell toys. And he doesn't feel like he's a thing. Groot dying almost got me. Like, it almost made me well up. I don't know why. Rocket and Drax, Drax, this really cements Drax as like the lovable idiot. He's a lovable idiot, but then it also shows that he's dangerous, both in his way of thinking. It can be dangerous to others, and also he himself would be dangerous. Like, he's strong. There's not much in this film that I can say, except for it's just a lot of fun. Like, really. And like, you feel like Yondu's a villain for most of it, but then at the end they sort of show that he's just doing this he's seeming like an awful person so that he doesn't lose the respect of his crew, because then you see what happens when he loses the respect of his crew in the sequel. It also sets up in the sequel that he is, he's more on their side than you think. Iron Man 2. I like the party fight scene. I think that's good. I like Black Widow in this film. I think it's fun. It's a fun film overall. I like Sam Rockwell in it. I wish he was in the MCU more. I hope he shows up in Armor Wars just because it's Sam Rockwell. He's a great actor. I don't care about the Whiplash. I want my bud. Like, I don't. Bro, it's a cockatoo. Go to Australia, you find hundreds, thousands, millions. They're everywhere. But, like, I just don't. I think the fact that they sort of sidestepped Justin Hammer and made Whiplash more of the main villain, they shouldn't have done that. But I guess, angry, vengeful businessman is sort of the villain in all three Iron Man films, and they didn't want to do that. But, that's okay. War Machine is fine. I prefer Don Cheadle over Terrence Howard, because it feels like he's there as like a proper, there's like a semi-foil to Tony Stark's like everything. Iron Man 3's fine. I liked the stuff with Harley Keener, the kid. Although it's now all been sidelined for his relationship with Peter Parker, but it did feel like a test run. I'm really upset that Jon Favreau wasn't in it much, because he wasn't directing this time, so they sort of wrote him out of it, made him blow up or whatever. The Mandarin was... I didn't care for Mandarin Twist. We're getting the proper Mandarin in the Shang-Chi trailer, and Shang-Chi looks great, so I'm fine with it. I enjoyed the ending. I just wish it was like a proper ending. Like maybe like if it happened after Civil War, he blew up all his suits, and then he only got back into the fight because Thanos. I think that would have been a better way to do it than him just showing up in Ultron. Original Iron Man. Good. Very good. This is the only time I really like the Tony Stark Pepper Potts relationship, like properly, because it feels more like actual people, not you know, Gwyneth Paltrow attempting to pretend to be in love, and Robert Downey Jr. like doing Robert Downey Jr. things whilst being in love is like the amount of love that he gives her the whole time, but they try and play it off as it's more in the others than it is in this. Jeff Bridges is fine for the villain. The stuff with Yinsen is great in the cave and all of that. Yeah. Spider-Man Far From Home. I think Spider-Man Far From Home does a really good job with the whole Peter Parker needing to overcome his insecurities, and also it felt like a very fun, kid. Like a very fun, like young teen comedy in a lot of parts. Especially like all the stuff with MJ and Brad and all of that, and then like the added ridiculousness of like the drone strike scene and everything. I thought Ned was a bit annoying, and I thought Mysterio felt like he seemed like a friend to Peter, but he felt a bit off as like a real person until they revealed that he was evil, which fucking everybody saw coming. But then he started acting like a real person, like he felt like a genuine human who was annoyed at like the world for not recognizing him. But yeah, other than that, there's not much else I can say. Aunt May's barely in it. And the supporting cast will do very well. JB Smoove is great in it, I will say that, as the science, I think he's the science teacher. Yeah. Spider-Man Far From Home. Sorry, Spider-Man Homecoming. The little Iron Man Jr. stuff is a little bit annoying. I think everything else in this film is solid. Michael Keaton's a great villain in this, and I really wish he came back in Far From Home. Everything else is like decent to good. The standouts being I think the ferry scene is pretty good, and obviously the main standout is Michael Keaton as the Vulture. Ready? Oh. I don't think Avengers is that good. I don't think the first Avengers film is that good. There's some really shitty dialogue in this, especially when they're at each other's throats before Hawkeye blows up part of the helicarrier. It's really... Loki, I think everyone in it does their part decently enough. The standouts being, I think that Mark Ruffalo does a great job as this more dark and damaged Bruce Banner than he appears later. He's a little bit happier, I guess. And I think Tony Stark, Nick Fury, and Loki are all done really well in that in Avengers. It just sort of... They undercut Coulson's death with like a joke, but then after the joke they tried to remain serious with it, which just didn't really work for me. If they wanted to play it off as a joke, that's fine. Like, if they wanted to do the joke after his death with the gun going off anyway, that's fine. but then you shouldn't go on, like, the audience should still be sad if you just added levity and made it funny. Either way, I think Avengers is like a 5 out of 10 film. It's kind of eh. The Incredible Hulk. I don't like it. I did not like The Incredible Hulk. Maybe it's because I was used to Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk. Or maybe it's because the ending fight scene is just... It's just smash, smash. Car boxing gloves or whatever happens. I've only seen it once, but from what I remember, I didn't really like it. I don't have much to say about this. It's just not very good. Thor Ragnarok. I am a huge Taika Waititi fan. What We Do in the Shadows, boy, Jojo Rabbit, Hunt for the Wilder People, great. The Ragnarok, also great. It also reinvigorated the Thor franchise and character. Valkyrie's great in it. Hulk's great in it. It's funny. It's fun. Jeff Goldblum's weird. It adds an arc to Thor and to Loki that work. And Hela is fine. The downside of this film is the villain is fine. Everything else I think is great. The villain is fine. Cate Blanchett does a great job, but the villain itself is fine. It does do a good job of showing how shit Odin was at everything. You know, showing that he used to be this killer, this conqueror. Now he's acting like everything's chill. He's trying to bury the past, and also establishing like, yeah, he was a bad dad to like everyone but Thor, basically. So I thought it turned out good. Loki was just jealous of Thor, so he's like semi-good, and he was just a cunt to Hela, so Hela's just fucking evil. Oh, and the Warriors 3, dead, all of them. Sif wasn't there, so she's fine. But, Volstagg, Fandral, and Hogan, yeah, I remember their names. Dead. Thor the Dark Thor. Worse than the Hulk. It's not good. It's really bad. It's just boring. When Loki's not on screen, I don't care. And in this film, I don't know why it is, because I thought she was good, or, well, decent at worst in WandaVision. But Darcy, Kat Dennings' character, just annoys the shit out of me in this film. Thor, it just doesn't do anything. He's just bland. This is basically Captain Marvel, you know, interesting villain and not much going on with the heroes. But worse, because at least Captain Marvel's main, like, villain, you know, who end up being good and whatever, the Skrulls, are the main thing. Loki isn't the main villain. The main villain of this also sucks. This is the Man of Steel of the MCU. It's just bland and boring. But it looks good, like Man of Steel, CG-wise. Thor 1. Thor 1 is it says better than I meant to. Thor 1 is just below average. It's got a story arc for Thor. Story arc for Loki. The fish out of water Earth stuff is fun, but they overplay the Shakespearean aspect of like Asgard. And it just feels off. Also, I don't care about the Warriors 3. So when they come to Earth, see Thor, they're like, whoa, we're Bucky. It's like, no, I don't care. You're here. Great. Hawkeye's in it for like a minute of screen time. So I guess he's fine. Anyway, let's wrap this up. It's gone on for like an hour. What time is it? Nearly an hour recording. Let me finally order these appropriately. Okay. So, from worst to best, MCU ranking. Thor the Dark World, The Incredible Hulk, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Captain Marvel, Thor, Iron Man 2, Avengers, Doctor Strange, Iron Man 3, Captain America the First Avenger, Ant-Man, Black Panther, Avengers Age of Ultron, Iron Man, Avengers Endgame, Spider-Man Homecoming, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Captain America Civil War, Spider-Man Far From Home, Thor Ragnarok, Guardians of the Galaxy, Captain America the Winter Soldier, and number 1, Avengers Infinity War. If you disagreed, if you hate me, if you think I'm dumb, comment down below. If you liked it, if you agree, if you don't think I'm dumb, also comment down below. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, do whatever you want really. I'm not going to force you. Anyway, that's it. Thanks.